Hey guys, my name is Meow, and now that I've played Rainbow Six Siege for over 4 years now, I've noticed some trends and, dare I say, some unwritten laws that affect the game every single time that you play. And so what I wanted to do is talk about these rules and things that govern how we play Rainbow Six Siege. And so to start us off, timing is never going to be on your side. I think bad timing is taking out more people in this game than anything else. How many situations have you been in where you're watching an angle for a solid 30 seconds? You're convinced that someone is just around the corner, you're watching the flank for your team, but nothing happens. You then realize, oh, I'm on offense, I need to play the objective. You step forward, and then as soon as you unaim down sight, someone immediately rounds the corner and takes you out. I don't understand how things line up so perfectly. Was I on a camera? Did they hear my footsteps? No, it's just simply because of bad timing. The next law of Siege is that everyone on your team is not going to be using a microphone. Not a single call out will be made the entire match. But for some reason, it seems like the other team is practicing for the Pro League. Now, I fully understand that not everyone wants to use a microphone because they just don't want to hassle with it. There's a lot of toxicity in Rainbow Six Siege. As soon as you start talking, things can kind of escalate. I fully get that. They want to relax, they want to enjoy the game and not have to talk to anyone else. But at the same time, this game requires a lot of coordination and teamwork, especially if you are in that ranked environment. And so to go into these matches and even trying to strike up a conversation at the very beginning to like, hey, does anyone have a microphone? Everyone says yes, but then to have them not ever use it throughout the entire round is incredibly disappointing. And then the cherry on top to all of this, for some reason, the other team is incredibly well coordinated. They're activating a lion. They got Zofia at the same moment, flinging her gadget through a window and stunning you, and then the IQ hits you from a completely different angle that you weren't even expecting. The synergy and the teamwork that they're displaying is impressive to behold, but then for some reason, your team is just silent the entire time. The next law of Siege is that if you ever play as Valkyrie or Echo, anyone that can place down a camera on the map, someone on your squad is going to spot with that gadget, revealing its location, and then promptly getting it taken out. It's been 4 years. Why are people still spotting with these gadgets? I don't understand. Like, there's a time and a place. Don't get me wrong. If they're pushing the objective, you're making callouts the entire time, you're letting them know their exact location as they're pushing on in, then yes, I agree, using them to spot is advantageous. But let's be honest, that almost never happens. It's the first 30 seconds of the match, and for some reason, your teammate is going buck wild with the spot button, and you have no one in the vicinity to be able to take advantage of that information. Even when you politely say, hey, could you not spot with my gadget? I would appreciate that. You could almost guarantee that the very next round, someone is going to be doing that action once again. The next rule of Siege is that if it turns into a 5v1, for some reason, everyone on your side is going to completely lose all tactics and strategy and just rush that final person as fast as they can, trying to increase their KD. When I'm on the receiving end of that, I will fully admit is probably some of the most intense and enjoyable moments that you are going to experience in this game. Everyone is playing like a lunatic, and so it makes it very easy to take them out, and it's really the only time you're going to be able to actually secure a 5v1 clutch. If they're actually using tactics, there's no way that you're going to be able to come out on top. The funny thing about it is it can almost see this phenomenon happen in real time. As soon as it goes to a 5v1 and they hear where that last person is, everyone on your team just starts sprinting as fast as they can in that location. It's amazing. Now, admittedly, this will work a majority of the time because if it's 1 versus 5, just sheer numbers is going to overwhelm that final player. But in those select situations where that last player gets lucky and they have the aim, they get whittled down, and all of a sudden it's now a 1v1 situation. Everyone's now looking at you like you did something wrong. This is all your fault. You're getting a bit nervous because you're now going against the player who just took out 4 other people just by himself, and then those nerves eventually lead to you losing the round. Do not underestimate people's desire to get that final kill at the end of a match because it happens like clockwork. The next rule of Siege is that you are always going to have bad games. It doesn't matter if you're a pro all the way down to the worst or anything in between, you're gonna have games where you're going against other players that just have your number. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be roaming, anchoring, you could try being more aggressive, you could play passive and more tactically, but everything is just countered by the other side. They've got awesome aim, their timing seems to be impeccable, you can't tell if it's due because of teamwork or of just luck, but for some reason, you're just getting dominated. Now, the ironic and sort of sad reality of all of this, though, is that the very next game that you queue into, a lot of the same people are going to be on your team. That's just the way that the matchmaking system works. And you might have the wrong thought, that you're going to now win this round guaranteed. These people are amazing. Like, they destroyed you last round. But then you watch the way that they play this time, and they're nowhere near as impressive. Their aim is all over the place, they have horrible movement, and then you have the realization, am I actually bad? The answer is probably yes. This happens all the time. You think that they're these amazing players, and it could have just been they got lucky. It's hard to say, but you watch them and they're making all these mistakes along the way, and then you need to have that self-reflection. Am I really as good as I think I am? And the answer is, just like before, probably not. Another law of Siege is that depending on what operator you play the most, dare I say your main, that usually is a good representation of what kind of player you are and can almost predict your personality. Doc mains in particular are probably some of the most selfish people out there. Now, I understand why people play as him. He is the best spawn peeker by a country mile. He's got an ACOG, he's got a great weapon for it, and if he takes a little bit of damage while he does so, it's usually pretty insignificant and he can heal himself back up to full. Now, this wouldn't be all that big of a deal if they would save some of their gadget for their teammates, but of course they don't. Or if they just get taken out in the beginning of the match because they were going for the spawn peak, which is a highly likely thing to happen, then their gadget becomes completely useless for their entire squad throughout the match itself. And so it just results in a very selfish playstyle that seems to be not exclusive to Doc, but a lot of people definitely like to gravitate towards him for that specific playstyle. You will then have those players that you will almost be able to predict what they're going to use when they switch over to defense. Probably the best example of this is Ashe and Jaeger mains. You see someone constantly playing as Ashe, you can almost guarantee that they're going to be playing Jaeger on the other side. You would think that after a while that they would want a little variety in their life, spice it up, kind of add in a little bit of flavor into things, but nope, they're going to be playing those two operators until the end of time. Now, for the next rule, which admittedly I think a lot more people need to abide by, is don't reinforce a wall directly next to someone who is also reinforcing a wall. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what's the big deal? The walls are getting reinforced, we're getting the job done. It's more of a courtesy thing. When you want to reinforce, you just want to jump on over to the one directly next to it and then reinforce that. But now, because your teammate has already done that job, you have to go run around and find a completely different spot. And so it just adds a little bit of confusion, and also means a lot of times that a lot of the walls aren't going to get reinforced because you didn't know which one needed reinforcing. And so just do what you can. Reinforce two directly next to each other, and if you see someone doing that very same thing, move away to another section of the map. Another law I've observed is that Rainbow Six Siege isn't actually an objective-based game, but it's disguised as TDM. There are rounds on defense where I think people are convinced that the objective is on the outside of the building. The constant runouts over and over from completely different angles, especially when you're on the receiving end with a bunch of randoms, can be a nightmare. How many opportunities have you had where you had the objective locked down, but then your Ashe was on the clear end of the other side of the map with the actual diffuser, and then they get taken out? The defensive team plays the objective as they should, and you lose because of that. In a perfect world, everyone would be using tactics, strategy, callouts, they'd be playing the objective, but in reality, that is just simply not the case. The final 10th law of Rainbow Six Siege, or at least I think that this was 10, is that the higher you go up in ranks, the more crouch and lean spamming that you're going to find. I wish that crouch and lean spam wasn't as big as it is in Siege, because I feel like it goes against the very nature of this game. We've talked about it before, and while I get why people do it, the movement system is a skill. It is something that you have to learn, and someone who has really good movement is going to have an advantage against someone who doesn't. But it really adds in a randomness that I just don't enjoy. You cannot predict where someone's head is going to be when they're constantly crouching and leaning all over the place, and that is something that you see at higher tiers. It's kind of just an unfortunate, or I think, an unfortunate reality. I know that some people really like it, but you definitely notice as you go up in that curve and skill level that it increases almost exponentially. But yeah, guys, that is what I for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. This was meant just to be a fun video, kind of talking about some of the things that I noticed in Siege, things that we all experience and just kind of have to deal with along the way. And so I hope you guys got a kick out of my little list. If there was something that I missed that you thought should have been included, let me know what you guys thought down below. Is there some law or some rule or something that you noticed that should be pointed out? Let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.